Forum, a community service of CAN TV. I'm your host, Juan Carlos Hernandez. For 120 years, the nonprofit Chicago Commons has partnered with individuals, families, and communities to overcome poverty, discrimination, and isolation. Our guests, Carolyn, Branton, and Michelle Flores, are here to talk about how Chicago Commons works for change. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Let's start off by talking about you individually and what you do at Chicago Commons and what led you to work in the nonprofit world.
Sure. So my role at Chicago Commons is in our External Affairs Department, and our External Affairs Department handles all of our communications and fundraising efforts. My role is the Communications and Special Events Manager, so I manage all of our external communications, public relations, social media, sort of overall organizational branding, and then I also plan our large fundraisers that we have every year and some smaller donor events every year. I think the thing that brought me to Chicago Commons is my background is primarily in public relations, and I've worked at a few PR firms in Chicago, and I was really interested in sort of taking a deeper dive into an organization instead of working with individual clients and really sort of digging in and being able to affect change. And I think the thing that attracted me to Commons ultimately is the mission and the work that we do. You know, it's really great to come to work every day and know that you're playing a part in helping people and communities sort of gain access and resources to things that they may not necessarily have.
Well, it sounds like you do the fun stuff, like organizing events.
It sounds very glamorous, and it is, but it's a lot of work.
I'm sure you're like meeting with, you're calling caterers. And
I'm calling caterers, just going to food tastings every day.
Really?
No, I mean we do have food tastings. I mean it is a lot of work. It's a lot of
that's really
logistical
hard
work and detailed work. But it is fun. It's nice to say that you like your job. So.
Okay, great. Michelle, thanks for coming today. Tell us about what you do at Chicago Commons, and you know it's rare when people say, "Yeah, I'm going to give myself to the nonprofit world."
Sure. So my role at Chicago Commons is I oversee our Center for Working Families. We're based out of West Humboldt Park, and what we do is we try to stabilize the family or individual economically, right, through the services we provide there. Why I came to Chicago Commons? Well, I grew up, born and raised in Chicago. Born and raised in back of the yards, and so I was familiar with Chicago Commons since I was a kid through their Mary McDowell settlement house in back of the yards. I personally did not attend Mary McDowell childcare, but I had my first cousins who did, and so I remember going to Mary McDowell, picking them up, you know, after school and bringing them back home. And so I was always curious to see, you know, who was in that building or what kind of services they provided. And so when I got older, I did some research on Chicago Commons and who they were. And I was really intrigued by that. And I always knew that I wanted to work and support, you know, the work that Chicago Commons did because I saw the reflection of it in the back of the yards community. Wow.
And so you actually have to roll up your sleeves and do some hard work.
Absolutely, direct practice kind of work.
Communications is hard too.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. So how does it feel though to be part of an organization that's been around for 120 years?
It's really an honor because you know, 120 years, you think about a lot of Chicago's most well-known institutions haven't even been around that long. So it's a really great thing to say that you've, you know, been involved with an organization that's been around for that long and still operating with a lot of the same goals and sort of values that we were founded on 120 years ago.
Wow. For you, you actually had that experience of knowing about the organization.
Right.
How does it feel coming into it as an adult and working there?
Sure. I think it's definitely an honor, as Carolyn said. I think that if I'm able to impact future generations or future, you know, back of the yards community residents, I think it's great. You know, my heart's in back of the yards, and it's really an honor to be part of these 120 years and to really, you know, leave my footprint there.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the areas where you're working is to reduce poverty, and it seems like it's a social problem that just stays with us. Maybe we do go through certain periods where the middle class has been pretty huge, but right now, these past 30 years, the middle class has been shrinking. You know, poverty has increased, and there's wealth distribution that's just concentrated in a few hands. How does Chicago Commons respond to such challenges? These are huge challenges.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. You know, at our core at Chicago Commons, we're education providers and senior care providers, and I think that we have really, you know, taken this idea that education is really sort of the answer to a lot of our cities and our country's economic disparities, and you know, preventing crime and violence in neighborhood. There have been studies to show that. So at Chicago Commons, that's an idea that we have really sort of taken hold of, and starting, you know, we have an early childhood education program, so we feel that the earlier, you know, children begin this life cycle of education and enter kindergarten ready to succeed, that this will prepare them for a lifelong, you know, career of learning and being able to get a job and have the skills they need to support a family afterwards.
So, kindergarten ready, what does that mean exactly? Because
Sure.
I'm sure some parents are like, I just have my kid, they're playing, or they're playing whatever, video games, or out in the yard.
Right. So our child development program supports 1,300 preschool students.
What does preschool mean? 0 to 5?
Birth to, well, our program supports birth to 13. So we have after school programs
Wow,
too
birth
for
to
kids after they are out of preschool. But we have daycare services, Head Start programming, and after school activities. So we have 4 locations, 2 in West Humboldt Park, 1 in Pilsen, and 1 in back of the yards. So kids come in, they spend the day there, they can spend the half day there. We have a really unique approach to education called Reggio Emilia.
Right. Tell me about Reggio
Yeah,
Emilia.
so it's typically used in very resource-rich communities. At Commons, we've brought it to communities that are just the opposite. It's very similar to Montessori, and we are one of the few Head Start programs in the state that use it. So it's basically a child-centered curriculum where children sort of take control over their learning and have it. It incorporates math and science and art, and parent engagement is a huge part of it. It's really sort of learning from your environment around you. So it's worked really well from us. We have some really great success stories of students who have done really well and who have, you know, entered kindergarten after they left Chicago Commons, and then mid-year were promoted to first grade.
Wow.
So those are the things that, you know, those are really great indicators for us that what we're doing is, you know, worthwhile and successful.
And this educational philosophy, Reggio Emilia, it's originally from Italy, right?
From Italy. It was started in Italy after World War II, and Chicago Commons adopted it in the early 90s. After like a study tour of teachers from Chicago Commons who went to Italy to learn more about it. And we slowly adapted certain practices, and then that's what we use now.
Oh, that's really, that's amazing. So how do you involve parents at that early age? Because I'm sure some parents are like, well, I don't know what to do, or I don't want anybody stepping in here to telling me what to do. I'm sure that's sometimes a delicate balance.
Sure. Well, at Chicago, we like to take the whole family. We like to take a holistic approach. So we start at early childhood education, and we like for parents to come in. We have parents that participate in parent meetings. We have monthly home visits that all parents participate in. So we really engage the parents in their child's learning activities. And then we do this in other programs too. So we have 3 other programs. We have a youth services program, an adult education, and senior care. And we incorporate the family in all of those.
And all of those. So how does that work, the incorporation? You said you bring in parents for family meetings when they have children, but how does that work once we get into the services for adult education and senior care?
Sure. Well, for senior care, you know, senior care is the senior and adults with disabilities population is a growing population. People are living longer, and the cost of senior care is very high. So at our programs, people can come into one of our adult day service facilities and their family members can go to work. We pick them up and drop them off, or we have an aide that goes in their home and can take care of them for the day or for a couple of hours while their family members are at work. And then our youth and adult education, Michelle actually works really closely with.
Yeah, tell us about that, because it sounds like a wraparound
Absolutely.
group of programs where people are never left alone in a good sense. You know, it's like, you know, they're not they say it, you don't isolate people, or you don't let them be in isolation.
Absolutely. So in our youth services program, we provide academic enrichment opportunities for school-age children and youth via mentoring, life skills training, and activities after school and during the summer, right? So we try to engage the students to stay active in the community, to stay engaged in school, and we try to bring in the families as well in those components, right? So that they can be active members of their child's or youth learning. In adult education, what we do is we try to support adults in pursuing their education, whether they're out of school or transitioning into, post-secondary or, entering the community again, right? So we definitely are there to facilitate basic adult education, English as a second language, computer literacy, and to support them in their future endeavors.
I certainly want to get into how that works because
Sure.
a lot of people, and like you said, one of the ways of confronting and overcoming poverty is through education, and a lot of adults are saying, I need to improve or add skills to what I know.
Sure.
But tell me about working with those, I guess, teens or preteens, mentoring. That's pretty rare. I don't think that's a program that's very widespread. How does that work?
Sure. So our mentoring program, we work out of two community schools, one in West Humboldt Park and one in Back of the Yards, a high school in Back of the Yards.
High school. Okay.
Right. So in our elementary school in Humboldt Park, what we do is we pair the students in our program with high school students of a local high school in Humboldt Park. And so they come in and do certain activities with the kids, to kind of mentor them and coach them, ask questions. We always have those Q&As so that they can be exposed to the possibilities, right? These are kids, high school kids from the neighborhood who are coming to the elementary school and providing that sort of mentorship, right? They're able to see that in their community there exist leaders and folks who are really making strides in their education.
So how do you pick these mentors? Do you go to the high school or make an announcement? Or?
Right, so we partner with the local high school and we go out and we do presentations and we take in high school students who are really interested in doing service, right? In giving back to their community, in really working with our elementary school age kids. And
so how often do they get together? I'm curious because it seems like to have the support and that resource with it from within the community, somebody that's grown up there, right?
Right.
And to have them come back and talk to me and listen to me and coach me as I'm growing up it's very rare, like I said earlier, but it all sounds so like it could have such a great impact.
Yeah. So right now I know they are meeting once a week for an hour, but we hope to increase that as we're seeing the impact of that relationship that they're building, right? That mentoring relationship. So we hope to expand that program specifically.
So they meet at
so they meet right. So then the high school students, what would they do is they would walk to the elementary school, and they would engage in an after-school activity, whether it's a board game or reading a book or playing sports, and it's all coordinated through our resource coordinator at the school.
Wow. And so that's a program for elementary kids and also I guess high school kids, connecting them.
Right.
And but what else do you provide for teens who want to become part of the community and making an impact?
Sure. So in our high school program, in our RISE program, what we work with the kids there, or the young adults, I should say, in building their life skills. Right. A lot of the youth in Back of the Yards are really struggling and have a lot of barriers. Due to gang violence. Maybe they come from a one-parent household. Maybe they are transitioning from in and out of the shelter. And so what the program does is really support them in achieving their academic goals, right?
You said life skills. What do you mean by life skills?
So life skills, it could be conflict resolution, right? Showing them how to communicate with one another in a positive way, not yelling over one another and trying to get your point across, right? Because as a youth, as a young adult, you're very expressive and passionate, right? They have a lot of energy, and so you want to make sure that they express their thoughts in a positive way.
Wow. And so it's conflict resolution and anything else that you...
Conflict resolution, communication, you know, we work on their leadership skills. We work with them, you know, in exploring career paths. A lot of career exploration, right? A lot of the youth want to, you know, when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say basketball players or, you know, soccer players. And we know that that's, you know, that's great, but we also need something more tangible and achievable. So we try to get them to think a little bit more critically about who they want to become in a few years, right?
Right. They don't, yeah, I think it's not even necessarily the sport, but the celebrity status that they might be seeking.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So once they leave high school, if they happened, or if they drop out or something, or somebody in the community says, well, I didn't finish, or I struggled and I just couldn't make it, you're also there for them. You also step in. What do you offer adults?
So for adults, right? So that happens very often in our neighborhoods. For whatever reason, traditional schooling hasn't worked for them, and so they're able to come into our adult education center and continue their education, right, in a non-traditional setting. So it's an adult education setting where they come in and they can take adult basic education classes, right?
So they can get a GED?
Absolutely. So working towards a GED, or maybe this person has a GED, right? And they want to go on to become CNAs or you know, work in manufacturing, right? Because those two fields are booming. And so we support them in that, and we also help them in transitioning into a post-secondary education.
Now, if what if I have children and like I want to get my GED and I have a job, I need to put food on the table? Is there support for somebody like that?
Sure, absolutely. That's part of our Center for Working Families model, right? Okay. The good thing about Chicago Commons is that we have our child development centers, so we're able to provide that service. So if you come in and you have childcare needs, you know, we have that in-house, and so we're able to make that connection and help you, you know, overcome those barriers.
Do you have I'm curious now, a story of a family or individual who went through the adult education program, and you were able to help and see them off in some sense, and you know, they've kept in touch with Chicago Commons, and they've been like, wow, you made a great positive impact on my life.
Sure, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to share that. We have a client who came in. I wasn't part of her life then, but I believe she came in maybe 2005 or so, and she wanted to get her GED. And she was a single mom with 2 children, and she was working towards it. She started at Chicago Commons. She was there for about 2 years. She obtained her GED. She left us, and just recently, when we started our Center for Working Families, she came back, right, because she needed employment now. So we assisted her with employment, and one of the good things that we were able to do for her was we started this healthy initiative where we collaborated with other community partners. So it's kind of the train the trainer, right? So we trained her on how to facilitate healthy eating habits to our young adults at our schools. And so now she was able to facilitate those workshops, right? So she felt self-sufficient. She appreciated that we gave her that opportunity. And now she's in a full-time job in a school.
Wow, wow, that's quite an impact. It sounds like, in a good sense, Chicago Commons has claws. You know, they grab a hold of you, and it sounds like they never let go.
Don't really ever leave.
Right.
Now, just an amazing set of programs. But you also work with seniors, right? Tell me about that, because it has 2 different facets, right?
Yeah, so our senior care program supports about 1,600 seniors and adults with disabilities across Chicago. It's our only program that's actually not geographically bound. So we have 4 core neighborhoods that we work in: West Humboldt Park, Pilsen, Back of the Yards, and Grand Boulevard. And this program sort of goes beyond those 4. So we help 1,600 seniors stay in their homes, reducing and in some cases preventing the need for the higher cost of other institutional care. Our program costs about 1/3 of what it would cost to put a senior or someone in a nursing home. So we have an in-home care program where an aide will come in and maybe remind you to take your medicine. They can do light housekeeping, help you with meal preparation, that sort of thing. And then we have an adult day service, and we have 2 adult day service facilities in Chicago where seniors can come in for the day. They have interaction with other people, they play games, they have meals, and it's really just a place for them to go during the day and take them out of isolation and you know, keep them connected to the world around them.
How does a person, let's say I'm an older adult and I have my parents or a parent who needs this, how do they go about getting this service?
Sure. So that you can come to one of our centers. We have a center in Grand Boulevard and one on the west side. There's information on our website, so you apply for the service. The cost is on a sliding scale based on income, and we will come pick you up and drop you off at the end of the day, or your family member can come bring you during the day. We really try to make it accommodating so that, you know, you as a son know that your parents are taken care of.
Okay, so just to be clear, if for example, my father wants to stay at home and he's healthy enough for that,
right?
But he needs that extra help. How often would a person come to his home?
I think it depends on the need.
Okay.
It could be once a week, it could be every day, a couple hours every day. I think it depends on how self-sufficient the person is and what kind of services and help that they need.
So they come in and clean, cook, what else?
They can come in and you know, do light housekeeping, help with meal preparation, remind you to take your medicine. If you're coming home from the hospital, they can meet you at your house and sort of make sure you get in the house and get settled. It's sort of whatever your needs are as a client, we try to accommodate that on our end. Okay.
And when they're going to the center, they're picked up by a limo? No.
It is a Chicago Commons limo. We have a couple of Chicago Commons buses that we use, and we pick up seniors and adults with disabilities from their homes, and we take them to Chicago Commons and bring them home at night.
No matter what the weather?
No matter what, well, you know, this winter was a little rough, so you know, we do keep the safety of our clients obviously at the forefront, so if there is ever inclement weather, we take care of that. But on most days, we can take you and pick you up.
Right, there are exceptions, especially here in Chicago.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's so they would go to the center and they play games.
They play games. They have exercise at our Grand Boulevard Center, which is an adult day service facility, and it's also where our administrative headquarters are. We have an outdoor garden where the seniors planted, you know, fruits and vegetables that they can take home at the end of the summer. They go on, you know, little field trips to different places around the community. So we really try to make it, you know, active and engaging for them. So they're not just sitting inside of our, you know, building every day. We take them out and we do different activities with them.
Oh, that sounds great. Have you had anybody come and say, well, you helped help me make it, you know, you helped me in my old age really, like, not feel so isolated? Because I think about some of my neighbors growing up and how difficult it was for them to grow older, and how my family stepped in and we had to actually take care of these folks.
Yeah. So we have one client who has dementia, and her mother, her daughter is a CPS teacher, and her mother came to live with she and her family, and because she has dementia and because of her health problems, she needed round-the-clock care. So she came to Chicago Commons, and so now her mother comes to Chicago Commons every day. Her daughter can go to work, and you know, now she has engagement with other people. She's much more settled. She sleeps through the night.
Wow.
She has a much more regimented schedule, and you know, can function at home and at Commons, and it's been really helpful to her family to have that service.
Wow, that sounds great. Again, it's this whole wraparound set of services that I'm sure a lot of people are just incredibly grateful for having the ability to receive. There is one word I did see in your website, and I think it interconnects with everything in one way or another. How do you reduce discrimination? Because that, you know, a lot of people say we're in a post-racial society, but that's not the only type of discrimination there is. How does that work into all the work that you do? This question is for both.
Okay. I can start.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so I think one of the ways we do it is by educating people and letting people know what access or what resources are available to them, and what you know, capabilities they can do if they have the right tools to do them. So I think that that's one way, just sheer, you know, knowledge and giving people, making people self-sufficient, and giving them the power to, you know, to come out of a situation knowing that they have the tools to succeed.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to add that, you know, through our Center for Working Families, for example, you know, we'd like to think that we empower folks, right? So we'd like them to own these skills, because we may or may not be there. I mean, we've been around for 120 years, and I hope we'll be around for another 120. But if we're not, then, you know, we'd like to instill in them these skills and abilities for them to really, you know, take ownership of what they're learning, and so that if they come into a situation where, you know, the obstacle is huge, they're able to overcome it, right? And they're able to become self-sufficient community residents.
That's awesome. We're essentially out of time, but can you briefly tell us the biggest events you have throughout the year, just for our viewers to know or be aware of?
Sure. We have two large fundraising events throughout the year. We have a golf tournament in the spring, and then we have a wine tasting fundraiser in the fall. It's called Pour Out Your Heart for Commons. It's a really fun event. It's a wine tasting event. This year we're going to have this year we're going to have Lagunitas Beer also provide a beer tasting. It's more of a cocktail party. There's a silent auction. We'll have a great band. So if you want to know more information, visit our website at chicagocommons.org.
Definitely. Well, we're out of time now. Thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
You guys were great, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to your audience, thank you for joining us. Community Forum is a community service of CAN TV. If your nonprofit organization would like to work with CAN TV, call 312-738-1400 and ask for nonprofit services. Tune into Community Forum for local issues and concerns every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on CAN TV 21. I'm Juan Carlos Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.